Hello and welcome or welcome back to International Yankee English. For this edition of Study Saturday, I will be talking about alternative ways to say you're welcome. I post videos every single Saturday all year long, and throughout the year I do several different video series. These series relate to academic and or business English from about the intermediate to advanced level, also including native speakers. So if you're interested in my content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let's get started with today's video. So what prompted me to do today's video is that I noticed a bit of a trend amongst the English language learning channels here on YouTube, where different teachers would make videos about different ways to say you're welcome. And I felt the video thumbnails and titles were all very clickbaity. So don't say this instead of you're welcome. Now don't get me wrong, I also have made a video just 2 weeks ago where I said don't say this. And that's okay to some extent, but just the way that the overall picture was of these thumbnails and titles, I felt that there's nothing wrong with saying you're welcome. Why are these creators making these videos saying that you're welcome is not an acceptable response to thank you? So I decided to watch them. I watched 2 videos, English with Lucy, and then my favorite, Rachel's English. And I found that the content was actually very useful. So while the initial draw to the video felt a bit like clickbait, the content was very useful. So I'm going to add some additional commentary to some of the responses that they mentioned, and I'm going to put a bit more of an international spin on it. Rachel from Rachel's English is American, Lucy from English with Lucy is British, and though I am American, I am also Dutch, and I also spent a good amount of time living in Germany, and I currently live in the Netherlands. So I'm looking at it from a more intercultural perspective, and also I believe that I am about the same age as Lucy, and I am definitely a different generation than Rachel. So I've seen some different things, and I just want to give my view on it, my perspective. Okay, so for the categories of different ways to respond to thank you, so other ways of saying you're welcome, I basically have 4 categories that I'm going to mention today. So the first category is really straightforward and not very different from the basic you're welcome. It's a very polite, almost formal way to say you're welcome. So it includes the words you're or you are and welcome, but it adds an additional accent word. So, for example, you're so welcome, or you're quite welcome, or you're very welcome. So this is a bit more on the formal and very positive and grateful spectrum. Okay, so for the next category, this is one that only came to my attention a few years ago as I was doing some international educator courses, and the discussion came up amongst different educators and then also amongst some of the students, that there are kind of different cultural connotations with ways that you respond to thank you. So for example, these alternatives: no problem, no worries, don't worry about it, that's all right, and don't sweat it. These responses to some people, whether it's their personality trait or a cultural trait, can be a bit offensive. So they're grateful for something that you have done, they appreciate it, and they say thank you. And you respond by basically saying, don't worry about it, indicating that there may have been something to worry about, that they really should be grateful, they owe you something. And that can be uncomfortable for some people. It is very common in the United States to say, no worries, don't worry about it, don't mention it. Those kinds of things are common in the United States, but I think the tone that you use and also the relationship you have with the person will indicate whether you are actually trying to imply that, yeah, I went out of my way to help you, but it's fine this time. If you know the person and you know that they genuinely are just trying to say, like, you don't even need to thank me, then you're good. This kind of response is fine. But if you don't know somebody very well and they say thank you, it's better to stick with something more neutral, such as you're welcome, or something from the next category number 3. So category number 3, I already mentioned one of them. Don't mention it. That is when they say, like, oh my gosh, you don't even need to thank me. Like, of course, it's a given. Of course I'm going to do whatever it was I just did for you. So it takes a really different side. So instead of being the like, yeah, you don't need to worry about it, don't sweat it, like stress about the fact that you owe me something now, it's really saying like, yeah, of course, of course, naturally I would be doing this for you. You don't even need to thank me. So it's much more humble in my opinion. And I prefer to either use one of these or to hear one of these as well. So here are some further examples from this category. My pleasure. The pleasure is mine. It's the least I could do. Sure, sure thing. Anytime. Of course. It was nothing. And happy to. So you can see that these responses are a bit more humble and a bit friendly and really showing that you were happy to help this person and would do it anytime that they asked you, basically. Now, another category, the 4th category, my last one, these are more specific situations. So I'm only going to give 2 examples. The first one is responding to thank you by saying, no, thank you. So you say thank you back. So, for example, they've done something, perhaps you reciprocated and did something nice back. They thank you for that. And you say like, no, thank you. You already did something much more, much better, much nicer than what I did. So really, it's not thanking me, it's thanking you. So that, depending on the situation, could be appropriate, but it is definitely not fully synonymous with you're welcome. So please be careful about that and be sure that you have something to thank them for that you value as either equal or more than what they are thanking you for, because otherwise it doesn't seem genuine and it doesn't really make sense in that situation. And the last one was one from Lucy with English with Lucy, where she said she did specify that it is specific to certain situations, and that is, I know you would do the same for me. Now, I would definitely, hone in on the fact that it is situational. You would really only say this to somebody that you know for a fact would do the same thing for you that you've done for them. Because if it's a bit of an imbalanced situation or a person that you don't know very well and they say thank you and you say, oh, I know you would do the same for me, it feels almost like blackmail in a sense. So it's like, yeah, I just did that. Now you better do the same thing for me or else. So be careful with using that one as a replacement for you're welcome. I hope that this video has been helpful for you, that you've found some alternatives so you can mix it up a little bit, and not just always use you're welcome, but also that you can understand some different cultural cues. So saying no problem, for example, can come across as offensive to some, and in some cases you also want to show some extra gratitude or show that you really were happy to help. So for example, instead of you're welcome, I was happy to, it was my pleasure, something like that could easily make a situation really much more pleasurable for both parties, instead of just saying the cut and dry you're welcome. But if you're ever in doubt, you're welcome is always a kind response, and I think any person who is saying thank you would be happy to hear that. But I hope that this video has helped bolster your vocabulary so you feel comfortable to use some of these alternatives in certain situations. Thank you so much, guys. Please make sure to check out either my playlist or come back on Wednesday to see my most recent or my upcoming Writing Wednesday video. I will be posting on Wednesdays all throughout September and October 2020. Bye, guys.